Before ink met paper, before wheels turned, before words were carved into stone, there was thread in the hand that guided it. Imagine a shelter made from stitched hides, a mother sewing warmth into survival, a hunter threading sinew through fur with a sharpened sliver of bone, not for beauty, but for life. The needle, small, silent, did not conquer, but preserved. It didn't roar like fire or thunder like wheels, but it whispered. It mended. It held us together when the cold tried to pull us apart. This is not just a story of tools. This is the story of how we learn to bind the world with intention.
Codex Entry retrieved.
The oldest needles ever found dated over 50,000 years ago. They were carved not from metal, but from bone. They weren't mass-produced. They were shaped by hand, sharpened with stone, polished by use. Thread was sinew, which is a dried animal tendon, tough, flexible, and strong. These early needles had eyes, tiny drilled holes for thread to pass through. That alone tells us something profound, that humans were not just surviving. How wild is it that the first technology that might have saved our lives in cold climates wasn't fire or even weapons, but a sharpened sliver of bone. You know, when I think of tools, I usually picture stone blades, maybe stone axes, but maybe the needle deserves more credit than we give it. The Cro-Magnons, which are early Homo sapiens in the Ice Age in Europe, faced relentless winters. Their survival hinged on clothing, layered, stitched, and repaired. They hunted mammoths, then turned hides into tailored insulation. Needles allowed for fitted hoods to trap heat, mittens or gloves stitched from reindeer hide, footwear layered with sea moss and thread. Sewing wasn't decorative, it was strategic. And I picture them sewing by firelight, using sinew-like thread. Survival didn't come from strength alone, it came from adapting. A world stitched together, one needle at a time. And thread wasn't just practical. It became a metaphor. Across many early cultures, thread symbolized a number of things. For the Greek moirai and the Norse norns, it symbolized life and fate, connection and continuity, the unseen ties between generations. Even the act of stitching was ceremonial. In some early societies, mothers wove or stitched garments with meaning into each fold, a protective intention, a blessing. And there's something poetic about the idea that stitching a wound or even a garment was like healing the world a little at a time. In the Arctic, survival meant perfection. The Inuit carved needles from ivory, bird bone, and later metal. Their tools were light, thin, and strong. They crafted parkas from caribou hide, waterproof seams sewn with seal gut, snow goggles stitched with sinew. Mothers passed down stitching techniques as sacred knowledge. Needles weren't tools, they were lifelines. I've read that Inuit children learned to sew before they could hunt. And it makes sense. If you can't stitch your shelter, the cold will undo everything. Picture a woman, for example, sitting cross-legged near a low fire. She pulls the needle through the hide or linen again and again, not in silence, but in ceremony. Because at some point, the stitch became sacred. Patterns emerged, deliberate, symmetrical, passed down across generations. Not random, not functional, but symbolic. Patterns and embroidery became language. In Slavic cultures, red thread guarded the body from spirits. Among the Navajo, patterns woven into blankets carried stories of the land. The Yoruba people often used stitched motifs to signal rank, lineage, and pride. To wear something handmade, something hand-stitched, was to be seen. The needle wasn't just shaping garments. It was shaping identity. What do you feel when you wear something handmade? Something passed down? Maybe a shirt or a wedding dress even. Can a shirt carry love? Can a thread remember? In India, the needle met cotton and produced muslin fine enough to float on air. In West Africa, kente cloth told stories of tribe, triumph, and transformation. In Peru, the Quechua weavers used cactus needles and alpaca wool to make fabrics dyed with cochineal red, a color once more valuable than gold. In Japan, sashiko stitching, once a method to repair work clothes, became an art form of resilience and beauty. No matter where you look on Earth, the needle appears. Sometimes in bone, sometimes in steel, but always in the hand of someone weaving culture into cloth. In the courts of China, embroidery was imperial business. Golden dragons stitched by master artisans wrapped emperors in myth and law. In Renaissance Italy, fine lace made by candlelight took years to complete and cost more than land itself. Even armor was stitched. Quilted gambesons protected knights beneath their steel. Every stitch, survival. But class began to divide the hand from the needle. The rich wore it. The poor, they made it. In England, entire generations of girls stitched samplers as both proof of skill and warning of their role. Sewing became expectation, yet the needle remained powerful because it always returned to the hand. Whether peasant or queen, it was still one thread, one loop, one pull. When the needle met iron, everything changed. In 1846, Elias Howe patented the first successful sewing machine. Soon, Singer brought it into homes. And in factories, rows of women sat side by side, turning fabric into fashion at terrifying speeds. Clothing got cheaper, but labor got more harsh. Sewing became industrialized and, for many, dehumanized. Yet in homes, it also became liberating. Women could mend, create, express. Some even earned income for stitching for others. The needle had multiplied. A single thread could now clothe thousands. What do we lose when we trade time for speed? What do we gain? Can a machine stitch meaning the way a hand does? During World Wars I and II, women on the home front stitched uniforms, parachutes, and bandages. In occupied France, resistance, the members hid notes inside of hymns. In Jewish ghettos, mothers repurposed threadbare scraps to clothe children with dignity. In every war, the needle stitched life back together. Even today, in trauma centers, needle and thread save lives. Sutures, stitches, the most intimate act of healing. To sew is to say, let's hold this together. The world, it spins faster now, but somewhere, someone still holds a needle. In a quiet room, a mother embroiders her child's name into a backpack. An artist in Melbourne stitches political protest onto quill panels. A retiree in Peru teaches teenagers how to mend denim one rip at a time. Even surgeons today owe their precision to the ancient craft of threading. The needle endures. It slows us down. It reminds us that care takes time. That bending, it's sacred. That every tear, every unraveling moment can be restored if we choose to stitch. The needle isn't just metal or bone. It's memory. It's care. It's culture made visible, looped, knotted, and passed on. It stitched hides into tents, cloth into comfort, flags into nations, names into uniforms, and love into lullabies. In every era, the needle has whispered one thing: we belong together. Because no matter how far we tear, how often we unravel, there's always a thread, and always a hand to guide it home.
Codex Entry.